It may sound weird, but a lot of the times the reason I like science fiction is less about the science and more about the fiction. I love seeing the characters get into crazy situations and how they get themselves out of it. Alien's a fantastic movie, not because of all the crazy industrial stuff they have to go through in terms of like digging out a planet and stuff, but is amazing because Ripley is a fantastic heroine, and her fight between the xenomorph and her is incredible. That's what makes a science fiction movie great, not the science, but the people, the characters. The scenarios that may have been played out a million times over can still be made fresh if interesting characters and environments are used to break that repetition. Personally, I think there haven't been enough films engaging with the urban crime environment of the UK. Attack the Block hopes to change that and put UK crime right on the scene. The film was directed by Joe Cornish, who is a pretty famous comedic English director, and is working with a fresh off the block, John Boyega, as Moses, a basic hoodlum in the slums of London. Moses and his gang of thugs find themselves in the midst of an alien invasion, so he and his friends have to defend the block from the ensuing creatures as they seem to swarm and attack upon them. This concept isn't anything new and has been seen a million times over. Aliens invade, humans defend. But what really makes this film amazing are the little details prescribed to its characters and the environment. This ragtag group of thugs is amazingly detailed. Their syntax, the language they use, the clothes they wear, all are really tied to that UK grime scene, which you really don't get to see a lot in terms of film. Most gangster films nowadays mostly focus on the inner city of the US, and you don't really get to see what crime is like in the UK. Certain things like No Face, No Case by Wearing Bandanas is really popular there, and they go all out in prescribing every little detail to these characters. But those characters and details would go to waste if the film didn't touch on topics like racism and street violence, which those characters in the real world inhabit every day. But Attack the Block does engage with those. It shows how violence can affect these young men, how being black in the UK changes their mentality and their view on the world. It really does a superb job in what could have just been a throwaway science fiction movie. And the best part? The kids are actually smart. They're fully developed characters. They don't fall into stupid bullshit like any other sci-fi protagonist, but they actually engage, they think. As for the negatives, the film does not always look great. The budget was clearly not high, and the one that suffers the most are the monsters. They come off like giant balls of fur, less realized than any other alien I've seen on screen. That's okay, it's not a problem, but it does make you think, wow, those aliens don't look very real. The language the kids use is also a problem. Even though the authenticity is incredible, it becomes very hard to understand what they're saying at all times. Subtitles would have been very beneficial, and maybe even a translator. But the worst problem of all is this one human antagonist that I won't go into to not spoil anything, but they just seem to act ridiculously. There are aliens attacking all around, and they only seem intent on attacking these boys. I don't know what was going through his head, but it just seems asinine. But these cons don't take away that this is just a fantastic, fun science fiction movie which will actually make you think, not about the science, but about the characters in the end. The standout moments all come in through the boys. The authenticity which they bring to the table really sells the world around them. The British humor also works with the boys very well. It's sardonic, it's witty, it's dry. It brings a little bit of realism to what's going on and also a bit of levity. And then the topics they hit with racism and street violence are usually brought in subtly. They don't hit you over the head with racism is bad and street violence affects people, but let you come to those conclusions on your own by what the characters say. If you're looking for this kind of movie but not really into aliens, or after you've seen it you want something similar, I would maybe suggest Edgar Wright for that kind of British humor mixed with sci-fi and action. All of his films are fantastic, specifically the Cornetto trilogy. Along with that, Men in Black also has a nice mix of action, humor, and sci-fi. So once again, if you want something along those lines, those movies would be what I would suggest. But overall, Attack the Block shows you don't need the craziest premise or most out-there characters, just good, realized, three-dimensional people inside a three-dimensional world, and you might have a good movie on your hands.